Daredevil Born Again Season 2 just dropped, and this is peak. What's going on, everyone? It's Oosagi, and today we're breaking down the first episode of Daredevil Born Again Season 2. Yesterday, we got the return of Daredevil and his crew of vigilantes. And this show is setting up for so many things. Let's talk about it. The episode starts off as we see Matt in his Daredevil suit, the new black suit with the double D's, as he gets ready to infiltrate a boat called the Northern Star. This boat is carrying weapons that is being shipped through New York City through Fisk's port that him and Vanessa refurbished back in Season 1. Once Matt's in the boat, as he takes out a bunch of armed guards and just aura forms, showing off the double D's, showing off his skills, and basically just taunting Fisk. We get this one shot of him taking the camera just to show the double D's and just like troll him. At this point, I would rather deal with the current MCU Hulk than Daredevil. And then we see two Greek men as they get ready to blow up the ship and sink it down for good. I just want to take a second to also appreciate how cool these panning scenes are, because just I love how they visualize Matt's powers in the shows since the beginning. It's just been so well done. How, you know, when he's listening into something, how it focuses onto it. It reminds me a lot of Michael Wade's Daredevil run, a lot, how he interpreted Matt's radar sense. It's really cool. Eventually the ship sinks and we see Matt get away. He swims back to shore and he just looks back at it. He sees it titanicking down to the ocean. Then we pick up at Josie's bar. It's abandoned and we see Karen and Matt, and it turns out that's where they're staying as they're currently on the run because they're vigilantes. Also really happy that they are utilizing Karen's character in this season, because Born Again Season 1 was a little bit of a fumble without her. They're fixing that issue. Obviously, that was because of the creative overhaul. There was a lot going on with Season 1, and now they got their firm standpoint on what they want to do with the show. We then see Fisk as he's looking at the Northern Star sinking, and he's like, "We need to get them vigilantes." Then we get him, the GOAT, the man himself, Matthew Lillard, Afton, Stu Macher, in the official MCU. He goes by a character by the name of Mr. Charles. We don't really know who his identity really is or what side he's really on. But we see him get a call. It turns out he's working for DC, and they say, "Yo, we need you to go check up on Fisk, because not so good over there, you know?" So I have a bunch of theories on who he could be, but I'll be dropping a different video for that. So if you want to watch that, stay tuned. We then get a few shots of the BB report, which I'm so happy is back. It's really cool seeing something like this being utilized into the MCU, especially in New York City, which is, you know, like the central point of the MCU, or just in general Marvel. And you know, I hope to see that a little bit more in other New York projects. Obviously, I think it's stayed really exclusive to Daredevil because of who her character is. But I mean, like, tying into eventually possibly Spider-Man in some way, or maybe even a Hawkeye thing with Kate Bishop, because there's a bunch of other people in New York in the area, and I just feel like, you know, she's not a Hell's Kitchen reporter. She's a New York City Manhattan reporter. We also finally get our first mention of Jessica Jones, or at least I'm assuming it's Jessica they're mentioning. Karen mentions she gets a text from Jess, and she's like, "Yo, Jess says she might know who the captain of the ship is. Let's go check it out." Which, once again, I'm so hyped that Jessica Jones is returning. Oh, and I have so many ideas for that, but once again, that's another video. Then we see Fisk in his mayor office as a bunch of people from the government comes and basically just like rails him out. "Yo, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you doing this? You didn't get permission for this." And yeah, and then we see Mr. Charles come in. Mr. Charles comes in. They're like, "Yo, who are you? Are you supposed to be here?" And Kimber's like, leave him. And then, you know, he's just like sits there and like all stew, just full stew coated, laying down, getting comfy. And then he's like, "You're gonna do this." And then this guy right here, he gets a phone call, and Mr. Charles says, "You're gonna want to answer that." He answers the phone, and I'm assuming it was a call from his son. And then he says, "Yes, Miss DeFontaine," hangs up and says, "Fisk, I will support you." Miss DeFontaine, Valentina DeFontaine from Thunderbolts. Now, if you don't remember who she is, Valentina is the head of the CIA, and she also runs Ox. Currently, she is also the owner of the New Avengers, or they own her, I guess. But either way, that's government. So Mr. Charles' character works for the government. But not for that, he's also not the top of his food chain. Then we finally got our first shots of Heather Glenn, the therapist that Matt was dating in Season 1, as she's interviewing or doing a psychological analysis on Swordsman. Once again, if you've seen the previous video, Swordsman is currently in Fisk's vigilante prison. He's doing like a psych evaluation to take him to trial for being a vigilante and to prove it in court. This way he could go to jail. She asks him a bunch of random questions, and then she starts seeing Muse, which, if you don't remember, she killed Muse because Muse was about to kill her. In Season 1, Muse was her patient, and there was this whole lot going on there. But she could muse, now she's seeing him, and now it's kind of driving her crazy. Then we finally get some shots of Kirsten, who, just want to say, off of this one scene that she's in, her character already feels so much more fleshed out than it did in Born Again season 1. We see her as she's just worried for Matt. She's asking Cherry, "Have you heard from him? How's he doing? I'm worried about my friend, my partner." You know what I mean? And in general, it looks like they're giving her a lot more character personality, which I feel like, personally, after reading the comics, I feel like they missed a lot of opportunities to make her the way that she is in the comics. Uh, for example, I personally love their comic relationship, and the way it starts is probably what makes it so special. And they already missed that, so I just feel like, it's hard to try and fix a character, but they're doing a good job. I think off of this first episode, a lot of characters who were hated or is left to the side in season 1 has been fleshed out very well. We then see Cherry as he goes to meet up with Matt, and Matt has a job for him. Matt's like, "Yo, I need to look into these two dudes who possibly sunk this ship for me." But it turns out the Vigilante Task Force is also looking for them. They go to a Greek bar in Hell's Kitchen, and they're asking the owner, "Yo, have you seen these guys?" She refuses to speak. She says,
"No me menos fascistas,"
which is a crazy mirror to today's time in America. Just saying. But she says she's never seen them before, which they know she's lying because she's known for helping immigrants get out the country. Unfortunately, they didn't believe her lie, and they caught the captain of the ship, and then the Vigilante Task Force caught him. Immediately after that, we see a shot, which I'm 100% assuming is BB doing this on a fake account. This way she doesn't get killed like her uncle. As we see an imitating video of Fisk leaking out his own information that he is a bad guy, that what he is actually doing as a mayor, the crime that he's doing, which, like I said, is definitely BB getting information off of Daniel Blake. Which, by the way, we get our first ever sighting of Ben Urich in season 1 in this shot, which is so cool to see. I'm so happy. This is my goat for real. Then we see Daniel, and we see BB, and we see them at his house. He has like a new condo going on, and they're partying, and she's like, "I'm worried about you. How can you afford this?" And then he says that, Kingpin bought it for me because he owns this building. And she's like, he's not supposed to do this and that. And he's like, it's okay because he did it this way. He's accidentally leaking her information, which she could use to create these propaganda videos. We then see Matt as he goes to the restaurant in his public identity to check for the guys that is possibly there. But when he gets there, it turns out they was already taken by the Vigilante Task Force, or just the captain. Which, by the way, we got fucking fooled as fans. We thought this guy was Cherry, and it actually is the captain of the ship. But either way, it happens anyways. We see this guy again as he tortures him and tries to get information out of him, but he refuses. Then we see this guy, this fake Wesley wannabe, come in, and he just shoots him. He kills him, and that's the end of that. We then see Mr. Charles and Vanessa and Kingpin. They're seated up in Kingpin's house and his table, and Kingpin isn't very appreciative of how open Mr. Charles is about his about how he acts or how he speaks. He speaks very freely, and Kingpin isn't very appreciative of it because he disrespected Vanessa. But Mr. Charles doesn't care, and he basically intimidates Kingpin in his own home. And like I said, he's not even the top of his own food chain. And then a scene that I've been waiting for and hoping for, we get BB and Karen as they meet up. Karen's in her wig, and she mentions and she tells BB about what happened to her uncle. It's a very heartfelt moment. I was about to tear up because I was just like, wow. It's been since season 1 since this was like a primary focus in Karen's arc, in my opinion. And I just feel like bringing it back was so important, especially now because they're dealing with, once again, the effects of Fisk. And now they're seeing the long-lasting effects of Fisk with him being mayor, and also with the fact that this is his niece who's now grown up and wants to get justice for her uncle. And it's very heartfelt. BB cries. She tells, they're just talking. It's just a beautiful moment. We then go back to Heather Glenn, who's on the phone with the lawyer who's currently working against Swordsman to put him into jail. As she says, "Yo, how about you change this in your evaluation report? This way we could just put him away." And she's not focused. She's losing her attention span because she keeps seeing Muse. It's haunting her. But she changes the information, which now makes it seem like he's actually a vigilante and he's crazy. I do have a crazy theory that Dr. Glenn could possibly be adapting this Elektra run, where they had a secondary Muse who was a female, and it could be possible. I haven't read the run, so I'll be giving it a read tonight, just so I can get some more insight, and like I said, I'll be dropping my own video on it sometime this week. Then we get Sherry. Sherry's chilling in his house. We see his real name, and we also see this shot, which shows that he's a veteran that fought in the Battle of New York City in 2012, which is cool as fuck. And does anti-vigilante task force outside the door. he says, "Yo, I'm not opening the store unless you have a warrant." He puts his hand behind his head, just knowing that they're getting ready to barge in there, as he's also texting Matt a code word, basically saying, "Yo, come help me out." They barge in, they start torturing him, and they're just like, "Where is Murdoch?" But then we see Matt come in, he comes and saves him, as he just starts whipping ass with his billy club. He gets some beautiful shots as they get ready to call, "Yo, the devil's here. Help us out." Cherry's heart starts slowing down and then it starts rapidly speeding. I thought he was going to get a heart attack. But Matt gets distracted as he gets flashbacks of Foggy, and because of that, he gets put down by a bunch of the soldiers that are piling on top of him. And then we get a shot of them all get taken out. As it turns out, it was Bullseye, who left a good message for him saying, "You're welcome." I am loving Poindexter's character. He is a very separate character from Lester in the comics, who is Bullseye's real name in the comics. Um, I do hope that they, after that, this season tries to redeem him, and then it shows that he can't be redeemed in some way. Because I feel like what I really want to see out of his character is being a menace and being that hateful character. Because I would like to see him possibly be a villain in a Spider-Man film, or possibly be a villain in a Dark Avengers film, or something like that. So I just feel like, I hope they dive into that a little bit more after the season. But either way, Dex is an amazing character, and I love his character in the show. Once again, though, I have so many theories between Muse, between who Mr. Charles is, between where Jess and where Bullseye playing into this part. Same with White Tiger, and same with the propaganda that BB's. I have like so many theories that I built up overnight, but I'll be dropping separate videos for different things throughout this week. And yeah, this show looks amazing. That was just episode 1. Everybody was saying that this episode was a very slow episode, but it was a great way to put us back into it. We get a bunch of really good action sequences. We get a lot of deep dives into the current characters' minds, the current cast minds. And like I said, it's very cool so far to get this dived out version of characters like Kirsten and Sherry, who once again was not very present in season 1 in my opinion. Or at least didn't have much characteristics outside of who their base characteristic was. But that's all I have for now. Like I said, this show looks amazing. I'll be dropping more every week with every episode. Let me know in the comments your favorite part of this episode and where you think this season could be going. But for now, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!